Across the world, nations, communities, and individuals of all ages have always gathered to commemorate the lives of those who lived, fought, and died in the First World War. Thomson Reuters hosted an event this year in London showcasing some of the people, faces, and places that helped shape Britain. 100 years later, dozens gathered to hear from renowned author and historian Stephen Bourne, looking at some of the black soldiers who fought for Britain on the battlefield. Bourne emphasized that many black soldiers, conscripts who signed up in Africa, the Caribbean, and at local British recruitment centers, fought in the Great War, but were badly treated after the war ended.
So what happened was that they were treated very badly in Taranto in Italy, waiting to be demobbed. So they mutineered, they were mutant, and some of them were punished very severely. I think one or two of them, maybe more, were shot, executed. And when those that survived were eventually sent back to the Caribbean, some of them were sent off to Cuba to work as labourers. They were not allowed back into their own islands because the British government and the colonial people, the white colonials out in the colonies, didn't want them. They were afraid that they would cause trouble and tried to fight for independence.
The First World War was also a turning point in both world history and the fight for independence.
The seeds were sown for independence. It took a long time, it took decades for that to happen. It took another world war for that to happen, for the colonial peoples, particularly from the Caribbean and Africa, to take part in a Second World War in order for a dialogue, a serious dialogue, to happen with the British government so that they were given independence. And that happened in the sort of 1950s and 60s and onwards. It took a long, long time.
Thomson Reuters, through its corporate responsibility and inclusion network, welcomed colleagues and visitors to the event to bring light to people's personal connections with the Great War.
16 million people lost their lives in the First World War. So when you feel sorry for corporal somebody or sergeant somebody or whatever happened to their life story in the UK, remember there were 15.99 million people who died in that conflict. It was seismic in every possible sense. And in the 21st century, we've got rather blasé about war. We go and bomb people in the Middle East. There may or may not be a Ukraine peace deal. You know, these things are happening all over. 16 million people lost their lives in a world which had a relatively small population today.
Thomson Reuters continues to be a community leader in connecting and driving the global news with efforts to highlight the importance of corporate responsibility and diversity within the workforce.